Hey, what's up? Hello. If you're new here, my name is Kayla and you are watching Kayla's Bookish Vibes. Today's video, we are going to be going over some of my auto-buy authors. These are authors that I've read at least 2 books from these authors and I really loved them. They were either like 4-star or higher. And after reading those 2 books, mentally, I was like, okay, if this author comes out with anything else, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and buy the book. Auto-buy authors. Now, I was thinking about it and I'm trying to figure out, like, are auto-buy authors your favorite authors? And I don't think that, personally for me, like in my standards, that auto-buy authors are necessarily my favorite authors, but they are like working their way up to be considered one of my favorite authors in my mind. So it means that anything that they write going forward, I'm going to buy and read. But anything in their backlog, I'm going to check out. I may even check it out from the library or, on Libby, but I'm not necessarily in a rush to purchase their backlog as much as I'm in a rush to purchase their future releases. If that makes sense? And I think that after reading their backlog, that will help me decide if this is an author that is like one of my favorite authors. And the difference between an auto-buy author and a favorite author, for me, a favorite author means I have to own everything that you've written. Like, once you've made it to literally my favorite author, I have to own everything that you release going forward, but I also have to own everything that you've already released. So I guess auto buys are like in the running to become one of my favorite authors. So without further ado, without any more rambling, let's go ahead and get started with these authors. I'm not going to give you necessarily a synopsis on any of these books. I'm just going to let you know the author and the books that I read by them that made them an auto buy for me. That way this video isn't like 3 hours long. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off with YA and get those authors out of the way. I consider these 3 authors now, I consider them like a trifecta. Okay, it's like, I feel like if you are into YA and you're looking for a book by a person of color, you're probably going to pick up or have come across or have heard of these 3 authors, and they have become auto buys for me. So the first one we're going to mention is Jason Reynolds. The 2 books that I read by Jason Reynolds that made him an auto buy author for me is Long Way Down and For Everyone. I know these are older releases, but I read these books for the first time last year. And after reading these books, both of which are written in verse, he became an auto buy author for me. I did read his new release this year, 24 Seconds From Now. Loved it. 4-star. This was a 5-star. This was a 5-star. His new release was a 4-star for me, and he has officially made it to being one of my auto buy authors. Anything he releases, I'm going to check out, and I do plan on checking out his backlog. Now, the next YA author in my YA trifecta is Tiffany D. Jackson. Okay, we have Grown, Allegedly, and Monday's Not Coming. These are the 3 books that I read by this author that solidified her as an auto buy for me. I read these books for the first time last year as well, and I read them all, I believe, in one video because I was doing like a taste test for this author. I had never read from her before, but I saw her referenced and recommended a lot, so I picked her books up. Grown was probably my least favorite. It was a 3.5 for me, but that's okay because you only need 2 books that I really love in order to be considered an auto buy by my standards. Allegedly, 5-star. 5-star, hands down, one of the best psychological YA thrillers I've ever read. And then Monday's Not Coming broke my heart. This was a 5-star. I think in that video I may have given it a 4.5, but after sitting on this book and how often I thought about this book after reading it, this is a 5-star for me. I literally cried real tears reading this book. I had to go outside and get some sunlight after reading this. It broke my heart. But yes, Tiffany D. Jackson is now an auto buy author for me, and I do plan on checking out, and I even own I think I own all of her books. I just haven't read them all, so I do plan on reading more of her backlog. And then the last YA author in that trifecta for me is going to be Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a new one for me. She was recently added last month to my auto buy list. Okay, I started off with The Poet X. I read this last year, and you can see that I have tabbed it. I have tabbed it up. Loves this book. Read it on audio. This is also written in verse, so go in knowing that. 5 stars. Then last month I read Clap When You Land. I say last month, but it was really like 2 weeks ago. But we're in a new month, so I'm saying last month. But literally, I read this book like 2 weeks ago. Clap When You Land, 5 stars. I wanted to tab this, but I was working while I was listening to it. I also read this on audio. Absolutely loved it. And then I just finished reading, like last week, just finished reading With the Fire on High. After, in my monthly reading wrap up, when I gave this one 5 stars and I let you guys know that she's like 2 for 2 for me, everyone that has read her books all commented and said that they loved her books, but that this one was one of their faves. A lot of you said that this one was your fave of the 3. I enjoyed this book. 4.5. 4.5 this one. I absolutely enjoyed. I read all 3 of these on audio, and she narrates her own books. In the audiobook, she narrates them. Someone else also narrates this book with her because there's 2 characters in it, so she does one voice and then someone else narrates the other voice. But I liked these better. I can't decide which one I like better between these 2, The Poet X and Clap When You Land. I think they both really touched me in a different way, but they were both 5 stars for me, and literally perfect, like no notes, perfect in my mind. This one, there's still no notes for this one either. There's no notes for this one either, but it didn't touch me emotionally as much as these 2 did. Loved all 3 of them, and Elizabeth Acevedo is an auto-buy author for me. I do have her adult novel, since it's literally right here, Family Lore, and I do plan on reading this ASAP. She is like literally, we're gonna go ahead and round this up to a 5 star, because if you ask me for notes, I could give you none. It's just the feeling thing. It's like the whole feeling thing. So this is like an honorary 5 star for me. She's 3 for 3, and I can't wait to check out her adult novel. Her adult novel. Okay, so those are my 3 YA authors, and I'm calling them like my little trifecta. Anytime any of those authors write something, I'm going to purchase it. I think it would be so dope if they came together and wrote some sort of like anthology, some sort of like YA anthology where all 3 of them wrote like maybe a series of short stories that don't necessarily have to connect, but just in one binding would be so cool. Their perspectives, I think, would be amazing. You know, like Tiffany could do the young black girl, Jason could do from the male's perspective, and Elizabeth can help us out with the black brown relations. Like, I just think all 3 of them together would be powerful, and I would eat that up. Absolutely. Next, we're going to start with our romance authors. I have come to accept that I just like a very specific type of romance, and it's not necessarily everyone's judge. Romance isn't my favorite genre. It's not my main genre. It's literally like a genre that I use to cleanse my palette of the other genres that I prefer. I do love a good romance though. Like, don't get it twisted. It's just not like my favorite genre. So my types of romances are going to differ from someone who mainly reads romance. So with all that being said, we're going to do our auto buy. And if you've been on my channel at any length of time, then you probably know who my auto buy authors are for romances. The first one we're going to do is Christina Forrest. The books that I read from Christina Forrest that has made her an auto buy author for me, the very first one was The Neighbor Favor. After reading this book is when I realized what type of romances I personally enjoy. I like them sweet. I don't mind a little spice, but I preferably like them sweet. I like them with a plot and I like them well written. And Christina Forrest delivers on all of that. I like them really cute, you know? And after The Neighbor Favor is The Partner Plot. This was probably my least favorite of the 3 sisters. The Neighbor Favor is still hands down my first favorite. And then The Love Lyric, which is the 3rd book in this series, but my 2nd favorite in the series. And then her YA novel that I absolutely loved, and I think more people should read, especially if you are into YA. This is a YA romance. It's called Now That I've Found You. I love this book as well. This one is really good. I love the premise of it. I'm not gonna give a synopsis. Look it up because I cannot give synopsis on all of these books. But these are the books that I read by that author that gave me, or they made her like an auto-buy author, solidified her as an auto-buy author in my eyes. So anything Christina Forrest writes, I'm going to purchase. Anytime she releases something new, I'm going to request the arc on NetGalley. I did read her newest release that's coming out this year. I read that earlier in the year called Heartsick. I did it was featured in one of my weekly vlogs, so I did read that. Anytime Christina Forrest comes out with something, I'm going to request it, and when it releases, I'm going to purchase it. Love me some Christina Forrest. Next in the romance category is Mimi Grace. Mimi Grace's the 3 books that I read from her that has solidified her as an auto-buy author for me is, in no particular order, What a Match, which is an amazing romance to read in the fall. As you can tell by the cover, the fall vibes are absolutely there, and because we're getting closer to fall, you definitely should pick this up. I do believe her books are available on Kindle Unlimited, but they're so cute. So you really need to just buy the physical copies. Make a Scene, how adorable, and Take a Hike. This was one of my faves from her. Absolutely loved all 3 of these books. The person that she got to illustrate these covers, she just illustrates really cute books anyway, but these 3, she did them so well, and I love looking at these covers. I did also read her release that just came out this year. I requested an ARC for that and I got it from her. That was called Love's a Script. So again, anything that she releases, I'm going to buy, and if I'm able to get my hands on an ARC for her book, I'm going to request it. Mimi Grace puts me in the mind of Christina Forrest as far as like, not necessarily the writing style. I think she has more comedy in her rom-coms, whereas I think Christina Forrest's romances are just more contemporary romance. She writes rom-coms. Like, I giggle when I read her books. I think she's funny and has a great sense of humor, and I think her spiciness level is just a tad bit, like literally just a smidget bit higher than Christina Forrest's. She probably has like the same amount of spice, they're just spicier. Like the spicy bits are spicier. So still not super spicy books though, so don't go in thinking you're getting some sort of erotica, because you're not. Like, you're going to get plot and you're going to get cute scenes and romantic dates and all of those things, but you are also going to get a little bit more spice than you would picking up a Christina Forrest book. But I think if you like Christina Forrest, you would love Mimi Grace, and this is an indie author. Next is, I mean, obviously, you know, it's just like, you probably have been shocked she wasn't #1. These are not in order though. Like, these are not in order of my favorites. Kennedy Ryan. The very first book that I read by Kennedy Ryan was Before I Let Go. This was actually the first romance book that I think I read as an adult, if I'm being honest. Like I said, romance is not my main genre. It's not like a favorite. It's not like my favorite genre. It's just something that, you know, I never really read growing up, because even growing up, I knew that I liked to see myself in books. And so black romances in like the YA genre weren't necessarily a thing. I'm not saying they didn't exist, because there probably were some that I just didn't know about. But romance was never something that I just like gravitated towards. Then I read Before I Let Go, and that changed everything for me. And I learned that black romances were a thing and that I loved them. This is a second chance romance. I don't think I have to go into depth about any of her books because they're so popular, but this book got me into the genre of romance. Absolutely loved it. This is probably my favorite, even just for nostalgic sake, like, because it got me into romance. Is why I will always love it. This Could Be Us is my second favorite out of the series. Loved this. And then Can't Get Enough, we won't even talk about. You guys know how I feel about that book. So yes, these are the 3 books that I read. And then, oh, I'm sorry, Real. This is also another book. So I actually read Before I Let Go first. This was my first Kennedy Ryan book. And then I read Real. This was my second Kennedy Ryan book. And that's what solidified her. That's what solidified her to me as an author. I said, oh yeah, she can write romance, black romance at that. And hers are a lot heavier or a lot more serious than maybe like a Christina Forrest or Mimi Grace. Like, you're going to get a little bit more depth in these. Love them. Love them down. You're also going to get more spice, but that's okay. I don't mind spice as long as there's plot. Love me some Kennedy Ryan forever and always. Okay, and now the last romance is JJ McAvoy. I'm laughing because Aaliyah commented, she was like, girl, if you mention these books one more time. But I love them. I love these books. I love this series. The first book that I read by this author that solidified her as an auto buy for me was Aphrodite and the Duke. And then I read Verity and the Forbidden Suitor. And then finally Hather and the Prince. I read all of these in a weekend. So literally it kind of like blends together. Like, I didn't take a break in between these books and read something else. I literally just read them back to back to back, and I loved them. Again, my type of romance, very sweet. There's plot. There's a little, is there spice in this book, in these books? I don't even remember if there's spice. That's how much I don't care about spice. I can't remember if there was spice in this book, but there is a plot in each one. You are being told a story, and these are historical romances, but I loved them down. Those 3 alone solidified her as an auto buy author for me. But then you guys know, if you saw my last vlog, Birth of a Dynasty, written by Chinaza Bado, is the same author. JJ McAvoy and Chinaza Bado are the same people. 5 stars. Probably one of my favorite books of the year, this year. 5 stars, and it's absolutely solidified her even though she didn't need to be solidified as an auto buy because she was already an auto buy after those three. This absolutely solidified her as an auto buy for me, and I can't wait for the next book in this series. So those are all the romances, and now we'll go into, I guess, like some historical fiction and whatever else I have on this list. Some of these books are not historical fiction, but the first one is also kind of a new auto buy for me, and that is Daniel Black. The books that solidified him were Don't Cry For Me, which is the first one, and then Isaac's Song. Both of these were my book of the month picks. I read them for the first time this year. I did a reading vlog reading these books, and if you saw that reading vlog, then you know why I loved these books down. And I do actually have another book on my shelf by Daniel Black that I need to get to because I believe it's a historical fiction, which is my favorite genre. And I think that's going to solidify him even further. But by my own rules and standards, you only need to have 2 books that I absolutely adored to be an auto buy. And I absolutely adored both of these books. 5 stars each. Next, we have Victor Laval, Lone Woman, and The Ballad of Black Tom. Both of these books solidified him as an auto buy author to me. He also has a novella that I read, We Travel the Spaceways. 5 stars. I don't typically read a lot of novellas because I feel like you can't grasp a full story. And if I do read a novella, it's very rare that I actually rate it because, again, they try to fit a lot in a little. This is considered a novella. Absolutely loved it. All 3 of them. This one was a 4-star. This one was a 4-star. And I believe the Spaceways one was a 5-star for me. Like a 5-star novella. It's unheard of. But anyway, Victor Laval, I love his writing. It's very strange, but it matches very well with my brain chemistry. And anything he writes going forward, I'm going to purchase. Next, we have, speaking of strange, The Deep by Rivers Solomon, as well as Model Home by Rivers Solomon. I read both of these books and they were both, this one I know for sure was a 5-star. I think I gave this one either a 4-star or a 4.5, but I loved them both. I tabbed this one. Rivers' way of writing is absolutely phenomenal. The quotes always hit. I tabbed this one as well. That's how you really know I'm loving a book, is when it's tabbed, because I had to stop mid-reading to go and grab my annotation supplies. I don't tab everything. These 2 books, if you haven't read them, you need to. You need to read them both. I love I'm not going to do a synopsis. I love the commentary in this one. I love the commentary in both of them. I love the creativity of this one. Yeah, you just need to read them. I love them, and definitely an auto buy. Anything that this author writes going forward, I will purchase, and I'm definitely checking out their backlog. The next author I'm going to mention that is an auto buy for me, I think it's an auto buy for a lot of people, and that is S.A. Cosby. Now, the 2 books that I have read that have solidified this man as an auto buy for me is All the Sinners Bleed. This is probably my favorite book that I've read by him, even though I've only read 2. This is my favorite of the 2. And then Razor Blade Tears. Now, when I read this one, this was a 5-star for me, and I said, oh, this is an amazing book. It's probably going to be my favorite book that he writes. And then I read this one, I was like, I think I like this one more than I like this one. This one was way more atmospheric, and I live for a good atmosphere. I do own his other books, and I need to read them. But anything that Uncle Cosby writes and releases, I'm going to purchase, including his new release, King of Ashes. I have it. I just need to read it. Next, we're going to go with Miss Tananarive Due. Now, the book that made Miss Tananarive, this is a very special case for me, I think. This doesn't happen, but it happened with her and this book. This book by Miss Tananarive Due solidified her as an auto buy author, even though this was the only book I had ever read by her. So usually it takes 2 books, because the first book could be a fluke. It could be like, oh, you just really liked that first book. But this book sat with me so heavy. Like, to this day, I think about this book and these characters. And I read it last year, at the beginning of last year. After reading this, she became an auto buy author for me, even though it was only 1 book. That's all it took for me. Her storytelling in this book, unmatched. So I then went and picked up Ghost Summer Stories by Tananarive Due. And I haven't read all of the stories in this book, but the stories that I have read, because this is a series of short stories and they're not connected, it's just like an anthology, but all written by her. The ones that I have read has helped solidify her as an auto buy for me because of her storytelling capabilities. She can, even in a very short couple of pages, she can give you what feels like a full story. Love it. So I'm going to complete this book by the end of the summer, because I think I only have like the last 2 stories in this book to finish. And then The Good House. I have not read this book yet, but it is going to be read this October. This spooky season, this book is going to be read. Okay? So she's an auto buy, but she has broken the rules because technically I've only read 1.5 of her works. And if she comes out with something new before I can get to these books, I'm gonna buy it. So auto buy for sure. But now let's do Sadiqa Johnson. You guys already know The House of Eve, the year that it came out, was my favorite book of the year. And then Yellow Wife. I read these both in the same year. This actually got me back into historical fiction because I had taken such a long break from reading it. After I read this, it was just like, girl, this is your favorite genre. This is your zhuzh. This is what gets you going. So stop playing and pick up historical fiction. So I read both of these, 5 stars each, absolutely loved. And she is absolutely an auto buy author. I need to see if I can request her new release that's supposed to come out, I think in 2026. Like when I can request that as an ARC. Keeper of Lost Children. That's going to be her release that she's coming out with in 2026. It releases February 10th, which is just a few days before my birthday. So hopefully I can get the ARC of that. But yeah, love me some Sadiqa Johnson, especially when the genre is historical fiction. I do have some of her books on my shelf by her, like in her backlog, but they're not historical fiction. And I will say I don't enjoy those as much, but I think historical fiction is definitely her sweet spot. Next, we have Vanessa Miller. So we have The American Queen and we have The Filling Station by this author. Now, I don't think I gave either one of these books 5 stars, but I realized I love the time periods and the subject matters that Vanessa Miller chooses to write on. Trying not to give a synopsis of these books is so hard, but both of these books, I loved the subject matter that she wrote from. I love her writing style, and she does write like Christian historical fiction, so keep that in mind. But I absolutely enjoyed it, and I want to say I gave each of these books 4 stars. They weren't 5-star reads for me, but anything that Miss Vanessa Miller puts out, I'm going to purchase. I need to own, I'm going to read, and it's going to be on my shelf. I think that was it. I think that's all I have. I looked at my shelves for a very long time to make sure that I would not forget anyone, and I probably did forget someone still, but that is okay. Off the top of the dome, these are my auto buy authors. When they release, I will be picking them up, and I am taking my time working through some of their backlogs. If they have any books in their backlog, I am taking my time getting to those, but anything new that they come out with, I will be buying and I will be reading. So let me know down in the comments below, who are some of your auto buy authors? Like when these authors drop, you stop and pick the book up. Based off of these books and you knowing how much I love them, do you have any recommendations for me? I'm always looking for new auto buy authors because I really like collecting books. So if I come across a new auto buy author, I'm all for it. That means that are new books that I can add to my shelves. If you made it to the end of today's video, I appreciate you watching to the very end. Please leave this emoji to let me know that you stuck around. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.